I'm State Representative Mark Gillen. Joining me today at the Pennsylvania Farm Show is Agriculture Secretary Russ Redding. Thank you for spending time with me.
The pleasure's mine. Happy New Year to you.
Russ.
Thank you.
Just before we went on camera, we were talking about 1686, William Penn, and a farm show that was taking place not of this dimension nor even at this location. Share a little bit about that history if you could.
It's an interesting history. So William Penn had this sort of belief that to improve agriculture in that year, and I would say the same many years later, the competitive interests, right? So folks would bring their animals in to be judged and bring their corn in and home goods and such. But he had this idea to do that through the Philadelphia Society for Promoting Agriculture, which he was one of the organizers of. And that was sort of the very, very first farm show for Pennsylvania.
Have you ever been to Pennsbury Manor? I don't know if you've had a chance.
I have not.
Oh, okay. Well, it's on the bend in the river there at the falls, upriver from Philadelphia, and it was a plantation. And as I walked around there as a young person many years ago, I grew up not far from there, I thought of the degree of independence that would be born of necessity, in the 1680s. And many of the commodities that we'd see out here during the course of the day were grown there. They had their own ice house. They were cutting ice, on the river. Walmart hadn't been invented yet. And so a lot of Pennsylvania's history in terms of, as well as fast forwarding to the present, logging. It was born of necessity, for building. I find it interesting, and we live on a farm ourselves, gentleman's farm. That means we build character in our children and lose money. But one of our neighbors is doing some logging, and Pennsylvania hardwoods is substantive, is it not, in terms of export?
Oh,
it's a cash business.
Absolutely. It is our largest export from Pennsylvania. So it's $1 billion worth of economic activity from Pennsylvania.
Something I'd like to see, and maybe not your bailiwick or perhaps even mine, though legislatively we can offer incentives, is a lot of that hardwood is going to a foreign market, China more recently, and then their factories over there are sending back the furniture.
Right.
What think ye of our factories here taking that Pennsylvania hardwood, being an economic engine and a driver?
That's what we need, and that's what it was for many years. And then like the last sort of 20, 25 years, it's shifted to exporting logs versus the veneer or finished furniture, right? What's interesting though, when you look at the numbers of the last 2 years, the uptick in all categories of lumber, logs, and furniture for Pennsylvania. But there's more to do, right? To add that value, let's do it right here. We know that those prime species are in demand around the world from Pennsylvania. Let's try to add the value here.
Yeah, I've been looking around my woods to see if I have any of those prime species.
Okay,
I do have a substantial amount of black walnut, not all of it is, commercially desirable. But when you have 5 daughters and the first one's in college and the second one's soon to follow, you have to start looking. But in terms of economic engines, it's very powerful what the Pennsylvania farm is producing. But let's look at this footprint here. I've heard varying numbers on the economic activity and the stimulus that occurs within the footprint of this complex, $100 to several $100 million. It's pretty important to restaurants and hotelers in this area.
I think it's an understated value. I mean, we've tried hard. We've worked through the Hershey, Harrisburg Visitors Bureau to try to quantify the numbers. On the low side, you're $100 million for the week. The upper side, for the complex, the week, and the sort of the residuals, you're 300 million. Pick a number, right? But it's a significant impact to Pennsylvania. And all of that's part of the Department of Agriculture. I'm very proud of that.
Right. We've grown through the years. Do you see any growth in the near term in terms of square footage, building complex? In other words, I come here at prime time, and I can remember when we had a little one in a buggy. It was a lot of negotiating and a lot of walking around, very busy. At what point do we really have to think about infrastructure and making capital improvement or changes?
Yeah, it's a great question. We struggle with that. I mean, we've made, over the last couple of years, about $120 million. When we expanded the complex in 2003, 2004, we've made another $20 million investment. I think there are 2 things that need to happen. One, just you call it navigation, right? And we need to figure out how do we connect folks from the expo hall to this main hall. right? And there was an original plan was to run sort of a walkway over some of these very complicated intersections, if you will. That's number one. But two is, I think, the making good use of the space that we have. Take a look at, we've got 8 days to promote agriculture, right? Let's make sure that agriculture is on full display the whole time that we're here, and use that time and space. Yeah.
Or one of the down days, you could promise free milkshakes to bring people.
Well, we haven't had a problem of a down day. That's part of our trick here. Every day has been an up day. It's been amazing. This is the earliest in the year that the farm show can fall, and we've seen the effect of a first weekend in a new year this past weekend. Just unbelievable crowds. So it's nice to have people come in and take a look, taste, see what we're doing in ag. That's the whole spirit of it.
I said we were gentlemen farmers out there. My daughter is showing later, her sheep later in the week. But I can remember last year visiting one of my constituents. I represent Southern Berks, substantially agriculture, and northern Lancaster County, very agricultural. Yeah. And so I was with one of my constituents, and she was showing some chickens, Smiley and Tortilla. And I said, well, what's going to happen to these? And that's the problem with gentlemen farmers. Our animals have names. We cry, when they die. Okay. Right. But anyway, I said, what's going to happen to Smiley and Tortilla? And he said, oh, well, they're coming out of the leg egg stage. I said, what is it, curtain call? And she pretty much said, yeah. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to make you an offer on Smiley and Tortilla, like the end of the show, because it's the end of the line for them. So we still have Smiley and Tortilla out on our farm a year later, eating lots of food, but producing nothing for us. We had the horse, the chickens, the ducks, proverbial cats and dogs. But I enjoy, and this is just me, and I don't know how others feel about this. When I come out the door in the morning, all right, and I'm greeted, because most of the animals can see where I'm standing at that point. Like, are we going to get our hay, cat food, dog food, chickens, etc. I think it adds to quality of life. We've got about 60,000 farms in Pennsylvania, all right? What's your perspective on just quality of life, having a farm down the street? Yeah, local produce, I'm all in on freshness, but just the appearance of Pennsylvania. When I drove in today, I was absolutely thrilled with what I saw driving from that Lancaster interchange here. What does it add to us as a community, as a state? Just the ambiance of that countryside.
You've described it well. I mean, I think as much as we talk about it being a business and it's an enterprise, and there are people who are in the business who need to, turn that kind of money and to stay where they are, because it's not going to stay there because you and I like it, right? Right. But it's also an industry that can accommodate our own sort of passions for companion animals and production animals and open space, and you feel like you can contribute in so many ways. The quality of life is greatly improved having open space and farms and people willing to do that. It's a really important part of our culture here in the state as well. There aren't any other professions where, I can't be a doctor part-time like this, right? I mean, I can be a farmer and be the doctor. You can be the legislator and be a farmer, right? I can be the secretary and be a farmer. It's such an accommodating industry too, where you can do multiple things and you have a passion for it. There's therapy in the animals and the open space. I go out and farm every day and look across the landscape and very proud of what we have, but also that you're a steward of that.
You're on the road a lot.
Yeah.
You're in the office a lot.
Yeah.
Do you miss some of that extra time out in the field of the barn? Anymore, just getting home and just being at the farm is sort of my safe harbor, right? It's where it's sort of where I can be with the livestock and the open space and do my tinkering as we need to do, and mend the fences and do some woodlot work. But that's all sort of therapy. But I'm also, contributing both to my family's quality of life and the community, and that's a good feeling. Many people like that in Pennsylvania. We're wrapping up here. I remember going out a few days ago, and I had one of the sheep, and Cheviots, they're very skittish. A lot of the people that are showing don't care for Cheviots, but anyway, one of the Cheviots came over to me. Her name was Faith. It's my older daughter's animal, which is in college. And she liked, her neck rub and, and her back rub. We think of the hazards on the farm, rams, and I've been rammed, and horses, and things that they do. But that animal coming over, and one of my daughters reminded me and said, you know why Faith is so friendly? And she jumped right in and said, you know, we helped birth her, and the mother had problems, and we had to bottle feed her. And so there's that proximity, that closeness to nature and the farm, not only the therapeutic aspect that you mentioned, but I think we as a people, we're very fond of our animals. We care very deeply, you know, particularly domestic animals, cats and dogs, but there is a give back that comes to farm life. And I get out there and mow once in a while, and I know what I'm trying to accomplish, and when I'm done, I've actually accomplished it. Not quite like legislation or administration, but anyway, it was a delight to spend time with you, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Pleasure's mine. Thanks for all you do.
For the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Thanks for all you do for agriculture. Pleasure to work with you. Thank you.
And I think I'm going to take Russ Redding for a walk, and let's get ourselves a milkshake. And what's your other favorite item here at the farm show?
I'm going to try the new grilled cheese stick as well. So, all right?
All right. Hey, God bless you. Thanks
Great
for spending time with me, my
Pleasure.
friend.
Thank you.